First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Good evening and welcome to First at 5 from WUFT News. I'm Ashley Weinstein.
And I'm Jake Reyes. Thank you for joining us.
If you're a University of Florida student, you may be seeing the last of diversity and inclusion programs. Florida is cracking down on these initiatives at state universities. Governor Ron DeSantis wants to ban spending money on the programs, which he calls discriminatory. The proposal is one of his top priorities this year. DeSantis wants schools to focus on Florida's future workforce instead of DEI programs. WFLA's Jack Royer tells us about the protests in response to the proposed ban.
The protest started hours before the Board of Trustees meeting. Students and faculty from New College in Sarasota upset over 6 new trustees appointed by the governor, worried about possible overhauls to the liberal arts college.
So prepare for a fight because we are ready to fight.
Drawing much of the ire from protesters is trustee Christopher Rufo, who the governor's office touted has led the fight against critical race theory in American institutions. Rufo made a motion to eliminate the school's Office of Outreach and Inclusive Excellence.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, which sounds great, but in practice divides people and offers separate judgments on the basis of race and identity. My opinion does matter, actually.
The board voted to recommend new policy on diversity and inclusion, but not to do away with the office at this meeting. Students spoke in opposition, aimed at protecting the liberal arts school from sweeping reforms.
This is what's at stake today and what we're here to protect. The freedom to learn, the freedom to think, the freedom to be who I am, free from the government telling me what to do or who to be.
In the end, leadership changes at the top. The school's president terminated after an emotional speech.
I do not believe that students are being indoctrinated at New College.
Her remarks drawing a standing ovation from the crowd gathered inside. Now school faithful are hoping to preserve their institution as it is, even as new trustees move to make change.
How dare you believe that all Floridians agree with this obvious political power play? I know many Republicans and many Democrats that are currently disgusted with yours and the new board members' hostile takeover of this school.
New leadership for New College during a time of even more potential change.
The Florida High School Athletic Association Board of Directors are reconsidering mandatory menstrual cycle questionnaires. High school student athletes who experience a menstrual cycle have the option to fill out a form about their menstrual history. Now the FHSAA may require an answer for these students. The Board of Directors are in the midst of reconsideration now.
One of Gainesville's most active roads has been awarded $8 million for road safety improvements. WUFT's Loren Miranda joins us live from University Avenue to tell us how the grant will be used. Loren, what changes can we expect in the next coming years?
Jake, I'm here on University Avenue where the U.S. Department of Transportation has just announced a redesign that will work on an $8 million grant to redesign University Avenue to address what city officials are calling a traffic violence crisis. Over 70 pedestrian crashes have occurred on University Avenue. That crash rate over 3 times the statewide average. The grant will allow for the revitalization of 4.5 miles of roadway, narrowing lanes and slowing down traffic. The grant will also provide for landscaped medians and raised crosswalks. The eastbound lane is currently under construction, but once work finishes up, work will begin. Work is currently being done on the westbound lane, but once that finishes up, work will begin on the eastbound lane. Public officials will begin holding public meetings to hopefully set the project in motion by March 2024. Reporting from University Avenue, Loren Miranda, WUFT News. Back to you, Jake and Ashley.
Thanks, Loren. Is it just me or is it hot in here?
Well, I think it's me, or it could be that February has started and Valentine's Day is coming up. But nonetheless, WFT's Julia Haley joins us now to tell us what's actually happening with the forecast. Julia?
Jake, Ashley, it is hot, 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 especially for our first day in February. Those temperatures in the 80s and 70s, 78 Gainesville, 80 Ocala, 82 the Villages, 77 Palatka, 74 St. Augustine, and 79 for Jacksonville. An extremely hot day outside for this time of year. Outside of our studio, those blue skies, some cumulus clouds, 78 degrees, and that sunset starting to set here on campus. Now for your evening, we are starting in the lower 70s and dropping into the 60s. That chance for dense fog will happen around 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. Back to you.
Thanks, Julia. She'll be back later with more on the weather conditions we can expect in the near future.
But first, Black History Month has begun, and we'll tell you about the celebrations you can expect this February. And Ocala is honoring an important Black figure in its community. All that and more when First at 5 returns.
You're watching WUFT TV News.
Today marks the beginning of Black History Month. For the last 47 years, U.S. presidents have designated February to be Black History Month. Each year, the ASALH chooses a different theme for the month. This year, it is Black Resistance. Keep an eye out for events in your area honoring the Black community. And on this first day of the celebration, the Ocala Police Department is honoring a turning point in the station's history. The department's recognizing the first African-American woman to be sworn in as an Ocala police officer in 1969. Alice Faison was honored earlier today at the station for her accomplishments and the legacy she created. First working as a records clerk, Faison served on the police force from 1969 to 1985. She is now a preacher in Ocala churches.
The University of Florida hosted an event to spread awareness that anti-Semitism is not a danger of the past. During one of the Gators' biggest rival games, the statement, "Kanye is right about the Jews," was projected on the side of the TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville. This prompted the host of the leading Jewish podcast to speak to students. WUFT's Francis Capper spoke with him about how social media influences hate.
Anti-Semitism. The thought of it agitates Mark Oppenheimer. It aggravates him so much that he decided to take his activism to the University of Florida. Oppenheimer credits social media with granting a voice to those who might not normally be able to spread their hatred. Despite the spread, he believes social media should remain uncensored by the government.
The question people are often asking is, shouldn't Twitter be censoring all these people? And I actually think no.
Oppenheimer suggests a break from technology to de-stress from hateful rhetoric.
I would challenge every person to take a week away from whatever their biggest technological addiction is, whether it's their phone, whether it's a particular app, and just look at the way that your life becomes less anxious, less angry, the way that you chill out, the way that you calm down, the way that you have less hatred.
The Judea Library featured a collection of anti-Semitic material from throughout the ages in America. It showcased content as old as the 1800s and as early as 5 years ago. When Oppenheimer discussed the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting, he focused not on the anti-Semite who perpetrated the attack, but on the community and how they were able to pull together and recover. Francis Capper, WFT News.
On my drive into work this morning, I just could hardly see the road in front of me, especially on my morning walk, even before that, when it was really early, like 6, 7 a.m. I could hardly see.
Well, maybe if I can give you some advice, clear up your contacts a little bit when that happens.
All right. You don't need to call me out. Julia, what's going on with the fog?
Well, dense fog has been a common trend these past couple of days. But will this fog affect your morning commute tomorrow? I'm Julia Haley with your full forecast in a few minutes.
You're watching WUFT TV News.
Starting off your February hot and humid. That's right, those temperatures currently sitting in the upper 70s here in Gainesville, 80 for Ocala and the Villages, 74 Crystal River, 77 Stark, 79 for Jacksonville, and some wind gusts in the area, specifically toward I-95, 12 miles per hour in Jacksonville and Stark. And if you take a look outside of our studio, seeing those blue skies, 78 degrees outside of our studio, some clouds forming in the process, a little bit of what we'll see later. So for your Wednesday evening, sunny and partly cloudy skies, but those temps are going to drop through the 60s. Dense fog is forming in the morning as we do have some dense fog advisories for your Thursday morning. So when you're making your commute, especially if you live in the Panhandle, Perry, Cross City, Live Oak, and then around like 6 a.m., you'll see Gainesville will have that dense fog as well. That'll last till about 8 a.m. So when you are on your morning commute tomorrow, make sure that you are fully prepared for the fog coming your way. Those lows are going to sit in the 60s and 50s, 59 Gainesville and Ocala, 58 the Villages, 60 Live Oak and Lake City, also Jacksonville. So it's going to be a very dense, foggy morning for your Thursday. And those temperatures are going to be high once again, sitting in the 70s and 80s, 79 Gainesville, 81 Ocala, 82 the Villages, 78 Daytona, and 79 again for Jacksonville. Our future track is currently showing some showers for your Friday. So leading into your Friday, you'll see this low pressure system will turn counterclockwise, bringing in all of that precipitation toward our area. So in Gainesville, for your afternoon, if you're going out to lunch, you may find a way to go inside, especially during your lunch hours and even into your evening hours as those showers make their way toward Gainesville. So upper winds looking to dip. That jet stream is dipping toward Florida, giving us some cooler temperatures for our weekend and some cloudy skies as well. So the weekend, we are rising to the 70s, and we will also have some sunny skies, but we are getting cloudy once again for your Sunday, rising just a little bit more. And our muggy meter is showing that it's going to be humid from about Wednesday through Friday. So that means that you need to watch out for mold, especially in combination with these temperatures sitting around the 70s and 80s. Maybe turn your AC down, do some cleaning in your home while you're at it as well. But we are going to get to more pleasant conditions later in the week after the storm makes its way through our area, feeling a little bit more dry. So this week is going to be dense in the morning, dense fog for your Thursday, those highs staying in the 80s through Thursday, and showers are expected for your Friday. So on to our 6-day outlook. Showers for your Friday, dense fog on Thursday, and then rising that warming trend throughout the rest of the week. Back to you.
Thanks, Julia. Jake, did you know that today is a great day for college football fans?
Of course, it's always a great day for college football. Jensen, what can we expect for National Signing Day?
A great day it is indeed as recruits make their final decision on where they're playing college ball. Gator coach Billy Napier just finished up a press conference and will be joined by WUFT's Chris Will to hear more. Also coming up after the break, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a lot of work to do following the retirement of quarterback Tom Brady. Stay tuned.
You're watching WUFT TV News.
Welcome to sports. I'm Jensen Young. It feels like deja vu because Tom Brady's leaving football once again. The 45-year-old announced his retirement this morning.
Good morning, guys. I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good.
Brady spent 23 years in the NFL, including 20 years with the New England Patriots and a 3-year stint with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Over the course of his career, he won 7 Super Bowls and appeared in 10. Brady retired last offseason but rejoined the Bucs just a couple of months later. This time, he says it is for real. With the exit of the man who many consider the greatest of all time, the Buccaneers have just one quarterback on the roster, and that's former Gator Kyle Trask. There is sure to be a lot of action for the Bucs this offseason. Sticking with football, it is National Signing Day for college football. WUFT's Chris Will joins us live from the Heavener Football Training Facility. Chris, what happened at today's press conference?
Yeah, Jensen, Florida head football coach Billy Napier just wrapped up his press conference here on National Signing Day. And while it wasn't expected to be anything crazy for the Florida Gators, Billy Napier had a lot of praise for his first full class. Offensive lineman Caden Jones signed his letter of intent just over an hour ago, and his new football coach said he could be a part of this offensive line in the near future.
You know, we had Caden in camp, so we had an opportunity to, work with him at 6'7.5". He's got a 36 arm. I mean, it's probably the longest arm we've measured since we've been doing it.
Now, the other massive storyline looming over today is where would former Florida signee Jaden Rashada go? He announced today that he is committed to Arizona State, and while Billy Napier said he couldn't comment much on the specifics, he said he wishes Jaden Rashada and his family well. He also said that this leaves the quarterback room open and says the Gators are on a market for a quarterback should well become available in the transfer portal or on the recruiting trail. Reporting live from the Florida Heavener Football Training Facility, I'm Chris Will. Back to you.
Thanks, Chris. In other Gator sports, the men's basketball team is back in action. The Gators will take the court tonight against the Tennessee Volunteers, who are coming off a win against the nation's number 10 team, the Texas Longhorns. Tennessee comes into the game as the number 2 team in the entire nation. The Volunteers have an 18-3 record and have won 4 games straight. The Gators are 12-9 on the year, but have won their last 3 home games. Gator forward Alex Fudge missed the last game against Kansas State and could remain off the court again tonight. Tip-off is less than 2 hours away in the O'Connell Center. Sticking with basketball, the Oakland Hall boys throttled Lafayette last night, quite the way to spend their senior night. After an up-and-down slate of games, the Eagles are back in the win column following the 60-35 win over the Hornets. Oak Hall was perfect at home going into the game, and they are still undefeated this season when hosting opponents. Oak Hall moves to 15-4 on the season, while Lafayette is just 6-14. Next up for the Eagles, they play Dixie County tomorrow. On the girls' side of high school basketball, district tournaments are underway all around the area, including St. Francis, who hosted St. John Lutheran last night. The St. Francis girls dominated the game from the start, taking a 20-9 lead at halftime. The Wolves ruled the rebounds en route to a 41-26 victory. The St. John Saints were able to close the deficit by 6 in the final frame, but ultimately they came up short. St. Francis moves on in the district tournament. St. Francis will take on Meadowbrook Academy. Hawthorne will play Fort White, Bell plays Newberry, Oak Hall takes on Countryside Christian, and Trinity Catholic plays Bradford. Also on the schedule, North Marion plays Keystone Heights, Sewanee plays Palatka, Tallahassee Lincoln takes on Gainesville, and Mosley plays Childs.
Thanks, Jensen. We've actually got some late-breaking news just now. A vehicle traveling behind a Marion County school bus hit the bus while the bus was stopped to unload students. 16 students were on the bus. There were no injuries. The driver is charged with careless driving. But before we go, let's take one last look at the weather. Julia?
It's golden hour here in Gainesville. We are dropping from the 60s and we'll have that dense fog forming in the morning, especially if you're in the Panhandle. You'll see that fog in your area. Here in Gainesville as well, it may be a little hard trying to commute tomorrow due to all of that fog. Temperatures are dropping throughout the weekend as we do have some showers heading our way on Friday, and then we'll see that warming trend rising through the 60s, then the 70s, and even back into the 80s around Tuesday. So we are going to have a bit of showers for our weekend, but then we are going to have some sunny skies. Back to you.
Thanks, Julia. The American Legion is supporting veterans through bi-weekly bingo events. Every Tuesday and Thursday, veterans and their families can gather together in support for one another. Those who frequent American Legion say it's a place where people know your name and welcome you with open arms. The American Legion Hall offers food and drinks along with those open arms and a good time. Thanks for tuning in. BBC World News is next, and PBS NewsHour is coming up at 7.
But remember, your Florida news is always on at WUFT.org. Have a great night.